Okay, I'm George Folk. I was Master Chief Petty Officer, actually more specifically a Master Chief Electrician's Mate in the Navy for a total of 26 years. But I entered the Navy on February 22nd, 1944. Incidentally, I was born in Reading, PA, and I was still 17 when I joined the Navy. All of my friends were in the Navy at the time, it seemed, and they convinced me that that was the way to go. My brother Donald had recently been drafted into the Army, and he didn't seem to like that very much. And unfortunately, Donald was killed in the Battle of Bulge in Germany, right between Germany and Belgium, on December 17th, 1944. In the meantime, I was in the Navy then. I went to boot camp in Sampson, New York. I went to Class A Electrician's Mate School in Gulfport, Mississippi, and then on out to San Diego to Gyro Compass School, and then to sea duty. My first ship was PC 1145, a patrol craft, but it was actually designated submarine chaser, which I picked up in Key West, operated a few times in the Caribbean, and then went through the canal and went on out to the Western Pacific. We stopped in the Caroline Islands briefly, in the Marshall Islands, in Weetok, Kwajalein, Majuro, and then went on to Guam and Westpac. By this time, the war was wearing on, and it was we did convoys in the area where we were oftentimes the lead ship, because if there were no destroyers available, which were the primary ASW ships, PC, a sub-chaser, had to do. So we escorted ships, not big convoys, but small ones, around the Pacific area for a while. And then in September 1945, no, August, I was, we went to a place called Majuro Atoll in the Western Caroline Islands. And I was totally in awe at the enormity of the fleet that was amassed there. It was probably the largest natural harbor in the Pacific, and it was just ships as far as the eye could see. So ostensibly it was all the invasion fleet, and it was ready to kick off. I'm convinced that it hadn't been for the nuclear bombs, the atomic bomb, we would have invaded Japan within weeks of the time that the war ended. However, be that as it may, I was glad the war was over, of course, but I was kind of disappointed that we had to kill all those people to make it happen. Not that they were merciful on us, but it was still a humane thing to at least have some consideration. And I thought, and some of my colleagues thought, we probably should have dropped those bombs in less populated areas. That would have been demonstration enough as to their power. However, it is what it is, and you'll find, I've found that most of my colleagues thought it was for the best for everybody, that it was what it was. Well, anyway, then I went from Majuro, not Majuro, from the Caroline Islands. We just shortly after the war was announced as over, small convoy of just 7 ships with us, the PC, took off from Ulithi and went on, headed towards Japan. And in a couple of days, we encountered the worst typhoon. And in all my years in the Pacific, I never saw anything like it. It was a horrible typhoon. A lot of ships ran aground. There were terrible losses. We survived it somehow. One of the ships that was with us was a large cargo ship. And they had a photographer who took pictures of us bouncing around into, underneath, and around the waves. And I have pictures here, which I'm glad to show you. They're remarkable, I think. Because he made them available to us when we got into Tokyo Bay. But we got there just after the armistice or the agreement was signed, and all of the Iowa-class battleships were there. The Missouri, of course, was focal point because that's where the ceremony was. But the Iowa, Wisconsin, Missouri, and New Jersey. And three of them took off. New Jersey stayed, became the flagship, and the other three we call wagons. The three wagons took off for home, along with most of the fleet. We stayed for about 2 weeks in Japan, and then went back into the wilds of the Western Pacific, and proceeded to operate mostly in the Caroline Islands. The thing of it was almost all the Navy, it seemed to me about 3/4 or more of the Navy was comprised of reservists. And all the reserves had a very close date to get out of the Navy. War was over, and off they went, and we kept losing people, but they decided to keep our ship out there, because it was not, it didn't take, we only had 60 men and 5 officers. It didn't take a lot of manpower or wealth to keep it out, and we could do a lot of things that other ships couldn't do. We would go very close into shore and so forth. The ship was only 173 feet long, and as I said, a small crew. And we managed to operate with a skeleton crew for a long time afterward, although we did get some replacements, of course, new people coming into the Navy. We stayed out till about 6 months or so after the war ended, and my ship got orders to go back to Pearl Harbor. But at the same time, simultaneously, I got orders to be transferred to another ship that was staying out there.